Hello there and welcome to Charles Hunter Associates webinar based on the changes to off-payroll working in the public sector. Today's webinar is going to introduce you to what exactly has happened. We're going to talk about IR35 in detail and discuss the upcoming legislation changes. We're going to go through what we know, but also things that we may not know at this stage. We're going to discuss your considerations as contractors, any further considerations we need to make, and then the opportunity for you to have any questions that you have, and we'll provide you with an email address and telephone number so that you can come back to us and ensure that any questions you have are answered as soon as possible. Before we begin, we just want to mention that this webinar is based on our own interpretation of the upcoming legislation and the changes to off-payroll working in the public sector. We're providing this webinar to give you the facts surrounding these changes, to help create awareness and ensure that you, as a contractor, can start to make informed decisions ready for the 6th of April, which is the date the legislation comes into action. We do highly advise that all PSC contractors speak to umbrella and accountancy providers to determine their best options going forward. We'll, of course, assist you with who to talk to towards the end of this presentation. Just to introduce who we are, my name is Jonathan Wadsworth. I'm the Managing Director at Charles Hunter Associates.
Hello, my name is Abby. I am the Associate Director of the Locum Division here at Charles Hunter Associates.
Hi everyone, my name is Yasmin Bashir and I'm the Candidate and Compliance Consultant.
And my name is Sophie Welch and I'm the Payroll and Accounts Manager.
Okay, right, so let's begin. We're just going to start with Abby, who's going to run us through what exactly has happened.
So, let me begin. So, the new off-payroll rules in the public sector have now been confirmed by the government. The changes are coming into force on the 6th of April. So, now is absolutely the right time that we must prepare for change. The rules, in fact, apply to all public authority assignments through any agency. This is only applicable to those who operate a personal service company, so a limited company contractor. HMRC suggests that they are losing out on vast sums of tax and national insurance contributions from PSC companies that are employed for tax reasons. This new legislation is designed to prevent this from continuing. So from the 6th of April, all assignments, whether they are new or existing, will be subject to this new legislation. Prior to this date, all new and existing assignments will be assessed to determine their IR35 status. If you are inside IR35, then you are in scope of the new legislation. Should an assignment fall inside IR35, then the recruitment agency must deduct all taxes and national insurance payments at source before paying you, the PSC company, the net amount minus the statutory deductions. The stance being taken by most public sector clients is that all assignments are inside this new legislation unless proved otherwise. There is at this stage no alternative but to review all PSE company assignments and ensure that from the 6th of April, the contractor themselves have made a choice of a viable payment method.
Great, thank you, Abby. So I'm just going to continue now by discussing what is IR35. This legislation was implemented 16 years ago, mainly because contractors who were deemed by HMRC to be employed for tax reasons were paying less tax than equivalent employees. The way they saw this was as false self-employment, and as such created a set of criteria that contractors could use to determine whether or not they fall inside or outside of IR35. If you are seen as inside of IR35, then HMRC requires the contractor to deduct the same tax and national insurance contributions than that of an employed worker. The criteria to assess whether you're inside or outside of IR35 legislation has traditionally been based on supervision, direction and control. So supervision would be if you were simply supervised or overseen. Is your work checked so it meets the required standard? Direction. Is your work subject to instructions, guidance or advice? And finally, control. Are you told or instructed how to do your work? With the upcoming legislation changes, this will still form part of the assessment to know whether or not you're inside or outside of R35, but there will be many more sets of criteria to look into whether or not you fall inside this legislation. Most social workers do fall inside this legislation because of the strict practices required and the legislative protocol that must be followed. To date, it seems a large percentage of full PSC companies that fall inside of IR35 are not paying the same tax as employees. Often pay is taken as a dividend, which is actually company profit. So this forms the basis of the new legislation from the 6th of April. HMRC will ensure that those inside of IR35 pay the correct tax and national insurance contributions because the tax deductions will be made by the employment agency. In November 2016, in our autumn statement, the Chancellor confirmed proposed changes to the application of IR35 legislation for individuals engaged in off-payroll working in the public sector were going to take place. These changes are as follows. The responsibility of deciding if IR35 rules apply to an assignment fall on the public body engaging a PSC contractor. The public body will then be required to tell Child Hunter Associates if the assignment is either inside or outside of IR35. So in reality, what this means is the local authority that you work for through our agency is the body that must decide whether you fall inside or outside of this legislation. Previously and prior to this new legislation, this decision would have been down to your own PSC company. If the assignment does fall inside of IR35, then the responsibility of deducting tax and national insurance contributions now falls on the agency. Again, previously, this particular area would have been a liability of your own personal service company. This means that for all inside IR35 assignments, the agency must deduct statutory payments prior to the payment of any invoice due to the PSC company. The liability of not paying the correct tax now falls on the agency, and any HMRC investigations would be directed to them. This is for all assignments worked from the 6th of April or any pay taken from the 6th of April for assignments worked before that date. Any monies and penalties owed to HMRC would then be issued to the agency. In regards to your IR35 status, from the 6th of April, HMRC have devised a tool. This will determine your status online. They're releasing this tool within the next few weeks, but some of the questions that they will be asking alongside supervision, direction and control will be, is there a right to substitution? Has it been exercised? And how was the substitute paid? So, for example, if you weren't able to attend work, could you send someone else on your behalf? Is there a right to control how the work is performed, under contract or in practice? Is the company responsible for defects, and has this been invoked? What are the requirements in terms of place of work and hours of work? And how is the company paid? The actual online tool consists of many, many more questions. Until it's actually released, we won't be able to provide any further information, but it's certainly going to be designed to try to catch out anybody they feel falls outside of the legislation, and unfortunately we fear this is going to be the majority. I'm now going to pass you over to Yasmin, who's going to talk about what we know and what we don't know.
Hello, so I'm going to start with what we do know at the moment. So we know we have to act on this change. It is the law and there are no alternatives. We know that the new legislation comes into effect on the 6th of April and affects all existing and new assignments. It is already widely accepted that most, if not all, social work assignments will be deemed to be inside of IR35 legislation. Social workers will now need to decide on a payment method that best suits their needs going forward. Now on to what we don't know as of yet. So we don't know as of yet the position taken by the managed service providers we work with. So for example, Adecco, Commensura, Matrix, Pause, these are where your assignments are on. For example, MSPs may decide to create their own PSL of umbrella companies. We don't also know as of yet the position taken by all of the local authorities we supply to. So, for example, local authorities may turn around and say that they will no longer accept anyone working through a PSC company. And finally, we don't know if there will be further changes to the draft legislation that has already been issued by HMRC.
Okay, thanks, Yasmin. So, following that information, we're now going to pass you over to Sophie, who's going to talk about the considerations that you can make as a contractor through Charles Hunter Associates.
So as of the 6th of April, you need to look into how you're going to be paid. There's still three options at the moment. So we've still got the PSC companies, so your limited company, your umbrella companies, and PAYE, which will be through the agency itself. So PSC companies, and again, this is if the client allows it, you should still be able to operate through a limited company. Your weekly pay will be sent to you by the agency as normal, but this time we'll take off all the PAYE deductions, so tax and national insurances. Charles Hunter Associates will then send tax payments straight to HMRC directly. You'll need to supply us with a P45 and NI details that we can process the correct tax for you. And your accountant will need to make allowances for the deductions in your bookkeeping and your annual accounts. This can be quite time consuming and could end up in being additional costs from your accountant. If you are currently operating your PSC outside of the IR35 rules, then your income will reduce. And even though Charles Hunter Associates would have to make tax deductions for you, you're not going to be entitled to employee benefits, so you won't be entitled to holiday pay, sick pay, pensions, and dismissal rights. The other option is going through an umbrella company. So you'll be employed through a PAYE scheme with the umbrella company, and then all of your statutory deductions will be taken care of. Umbrella companies are not in scope for the new legislation due to operating within PAYE. Your hourly rate will stay the same as it is now. Charles Hunter Associates are putting together an approved list of umbrella providers that have been fully audited and provide HMRC approved service. You'll have comprehensive insurance through the umbrella company and also have access to employee benefits. So you'll get sick pay, holiday pay, pensions and dismissal rights. Another benefit is you won't have to continuously give us P45. If you stay with an umbrella company, it doesn't matter if you change your assignment or agency, you can just stay with payment method. They also offer great support. They've got big teams behind them that you can call and speak to them about IR35 and other legislations that are coming in. Then we've got agency PAYE. So you can opt to be a PAYE agency worker through Charles Hunter Associates directly. Your hourly pay will reduce considerably, and we think it's going to be around 22%. Your current rate includes allowances, statutory tax costs, employee and employer NICs.
Okay, thank you, Sophie, for running through those payment methods. Just before we begin to wrap up this webinar, there are some further considerations for us to discuss with you. Throughout the process of this legislation being in its implementation stage, we have been very actively involved as a recruitment agency. We're members of APSCO, the Association of Professional Staffing Companies, and we certainly attended many meetings around the legislation and what it means for you to ensure that we're fully prepared to take action and ensure whatever happens, that from the 6th of April, all of our contractors are operating through a means that is within the lines of legislation and ensures that you are going to get the statutory deductions that you should be having taken from your pay. Some things to consider if you are a PSC company at the moment, that if you do decide to stay through that payment means that you've been operating outside of R35, you're going to have to change to operate inside of R35. If you continue to do that from the 6th of April, this could easily be a flag for HMRC to look at your company, because you'll have been outside of the regulations, but now you're inside of the regulations. Our concern would be that this does open risk to you, because they could easily investigate why that change has happened and potentially look at discussing claiming back unpaid tax and national insurance, which prior to the 6th of April would be payable by the personal service company or director of that company they're in. The same also goes for those who may continue to work through a personal service company but decide to open up a new one. Some organisations may offer this service so that you can operate inside of R35, so that you're paying the statutory deduction, but you still have your own company. However, again, this could well be of interest to HMRC, because as a director of your own limited company, by closing down one and opening another, but operating within the same scope as you were before, this could definitely evoke investigation. We can't say for certain this would definitely happen, but we do feel it's important to pass this information to you, because it has formed part of many discussions we've had with both legal partners and with our trade body partners such as APSCO. The other thing to consider would be that personal service company contracting could well cost you more money going forward, especially with the fact that if the agency is deducting your tax and national insurance contributions and your accountant is then having to make account for those deductions, it may make it extra time for them, and it could ensure that your charges do go up. What we do suggest is you do consider an alternative payment method, such as a PAYE umbrella company. As we've discussed, we will be sending out a list of approved providers within the next few days. It's always better for you to contact these companies to discuss with them your options going forward. Many of these larger organisations may also run their own accountancy functions, and they're well equipped to tell you exactly what you're going to be earning after tax each week, how your pay might change after tax, or anything else that you need to take into account going forward. It's very, very important that we catch this early and you take this opportunity to be able to look at your options ASAP. So following this webinar, we'll welcome any questions that you have. The main thing is that we're here to support you and to ensure that any changes that happen run very smoothly without any complication. The best way to go about this is to either contact any member of our staff, including our senior management team. We're all on hand to help you throughout this transition. We have our standard telephone number, but we also have a dedicated email address, which is ir35@charecruitment.com. So that's it from me. I'll just pass you to Abby, who'll have a final few words to say before we close the webinar.
Thank you. So I think it's just important for me to mimic exactly what Jonathan was saying there. By absolute no means this is set in stone. It is our interpretation of the new legislation. As an agency, we are putting everything in place to support you as contractors, so you feel like you're making the right decision for yourself. We're here for you, so absolutely utilise the email address and send in as many questions. We will get back to you as soon as possible. But in the meantime, you've got our phone number, so please just dial in and speak to myself or any member of staff on the locum division, and we will 100% support you through this transition, so it's nice, seamless, and not too much stress for anybody. Thank you.